Welcome to another episode of HealthSpan Digest. I am your host, Aaron Shaw from HealthSpan Physio Coaching, and I am very excited today to have a special guest, Anne Levine from Annex Life Coaching. I'll give you a little headline of what she does here. Anne focuses on helping high-achieving individuals balance ambition with well-being, creating change that sticks. And I'll give everybody a little bit of a behind the scenes here. Anne and I do know each other outside of the podcast world, in the real world. And we have a lot of things in common, not the least of which is coaching. So we're going to dig into that. But to start with, I'm going to throw a question at you that we didn't really totally prepare for, but I want to hear about your athletic endurance experience.
Oh,
You have done
okay.
some ambitious endurance events. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Aaron, thank you for asking. I'm honestly flattered that you asked. It's not something that, yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. I made a goal years ago. Maybe I was in my late 20s. I said I want to do a triathlon. And then all of a sudden I was doing triathlons. And I grew up being very active. I was a soccer player, into college and active. And soccer was the only thing I was good at. I was so good. Man, I was good. But everything else, just fine, not great. And went into triathlon and I loved it. And what I loved about it is I didn't have to be good at anything. That it was fun. I could show up. I could hang with people that were deeply competitive, serious about the sport, and we both could have a good time. I loved it. And the sport of triathlon, what your listeners probably know, but might not, there's this one section called transition where it's like coming back to your homeroom, swapping everything out, and then going back out to the next sport. So it's swim, bike, run. That was what I was best at. I mean, I could smoke anybody in transition. And so, but that's what I learned in triathlon was learning to do things that I didn't think I could do. Swimming is not something that is a comfortable thing. I didn't really learn how to swim like grown-up style until 2001. I could swim underwater, but so that's how it started. And I was a triathlon coach for a while and then shifted into trail running, which is very natural. I live in the mountains and love hiking and love walking. For those of you that don't know, trail running long distances involves a lot of walking. So it's a perfect sport for me. So I got into trail running and it just seemed like ultra marathons were the place to go. And the reason why is this mental challenge of sticking with something that is uncomfortable and that I am not winning, that I'm having fun, that I'm coming up against myself and having to deal with what my shortcomings are, what the myths are about myself. And it's awesome. It's been so much fun. So I've done a very small handful, 3 ultra marathons and love it. And now I'm trying to find ways as I get into my more senior years of adulthood of how to take care of my body and continue doing things that bring me that challenge.
So you must have during these ultras a lot of time to stick in your head and
That,
solve problem, or probably
yeah.
create problems, solve them, create another one, solve them. Like how long are these ultras overall?
Well,
On
if you're
that,
fast, they're a lot shorter.
well, let's just
Mine are
say,
quite long.
yeah.
I think fast people is sort of like Ironmans. I think fast people do them in, I don't know, 9 hours. I don't know. Mine were like 16, right up against the time cutoff. So for the ultras, 50 miles, I don't know my exact time, but, we're in the double digits of hours, not right up against the cutoff times, but maybe 14, 15 hours. Longer than one should be
On your feet.
walking in the woods,
That's
but it's so fun.
that is ultra. Are there lessons that you take away from that, or you come into that? I'm going to tie this into life coaching, of course, but it
Yeah.
seems like there's also, as my listeners would know, like I'm an endurance athlete,
Yeah.
not anywhere near that, but still, like there are athletic, being athletic overall certainly has,
Yeah.
life lessons with, personal business, our internal dialogue. But what things can you take away from these ultra events, or even just like any sort of endurance
Yeah.
sport, let's say, that maybe ties into some of the tools that you use with your clients?
Well,
Where to
Aaron,
start?
you are an incredible athlete. And when we talked the other day, catching up, you said something about your discipline. And I thought, oh, you've got that. I don't have that. I don't have that at all. But I don't have that. So I want to just make sure you give yourself kudos of being an incredible endurance athlete. Like you have, uh, yeah, something great. So mine's just different. Mine is like, oh, if this very undisciplined, very lazy by nature, comfort seeking uh, person can do it, you can too. So I just want to say that. Um, and so the skills, the things that I've learned that impact my life personally and the people that I work with is um, how to work through and be present for the thoughts that are driving you crazy and things that are telling you how, you know, it could be I'm on the trail and because I'm slow, I'm like, there's no people around. I'm just seeing little flickering tags in the woods telling me which way to go. And my mind can tell me that I'm lost, that the race is over, everybody's packed up and gone home, all kinds of crazy thoughts. And uh, the practice has been bringing myself back to, wait a second, my feet are here, sort of reality checking. It's sort of seeing through these cognitive distortions. Oh, okay, I'm on the path. There's little flags. Keep going. And then here's the trick. And then it happens right again. Some other thought. I'm the worst. I'm I'm not going to, whatever the thought is. And so it's that, it's sort of two parts. One is the getting back up on the horse thing with your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And so just coming right back to center. And then the other thing is to give myself, uh, someday I'll come up with the right metaphor, but like a wide berth. So instead of like, I'm always walking on a high wire or a thin, like a balance beam. No, no, no. Huh. Let's be
Sounds
a little
exhausting.
nicer.
Sounds scary. Yeah.
Yeah. And a wide path that is full of errors and feeling stupid and, feeling incredible, all of those things. But to just give myself a little bit of kindness and not make the stakes so high.
Yeah. I think that that concept of, falling off the horse and getting back on, especially when there's like a long event, as we're talking about here, like ultras. But it turns out life is a long event if you play it right. So there's
Yeah.
also a lot of
Yeah.
like falling off the horse, getting back on,
Well,
falling off the horse, and getting back on. I
you,
think that what the challenge is for us is to remember that that is the game. Like that in and of itself, even though we think like, oh, it's the event or it's the,
yeah.
it's the trail run or it's the, for me, it's the bike race or it's whatever it is. It's like, point A to point B, but there's so many, it's not a straight line. It's not clean. It's not pretty. It's
Mm.
clumsy and awkward looking at times or something like that. But that is the event. And to try to, even though, you and I both can coach to that, but also we wake up in the morning and we look in our own mirrors and be like, okay, I have to, I have to take some of my own medicine
Okay.
here. But
Okay.
yeah, that I think that is a good lesson for all humans, including those of us who try to help other humans.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about tell me a little bit about your practice. Tell me a little bit
Okay.
about who your ideal client would be
Mm-hmm.
and kind of what what they come to you for. What are they looking for? What challenges are they having?
The people I work with, they are typically people that are high achieving. And I don't mean high achieving like type A's, although they're there. But high achieving in that they've got an area of their life that they are feeling pretty good about and that they've had some success. It could be parenthood. It could be they're a CEO. It could be athletic, some area that they have succeeded in. And they're feeling deeply frustrated that success is not transferring over to these other areas. So how I came into this, I have a master's degree in counseling psychology. I'm a credentialed coach through ICF. But how I really came to it was I have been in recovery for 30 some odd years. I've seen people come in and they're crushing it. Like they've had a sober life. Their life is incredible. But then you like turn your head just a tiny bit and things are a wreck. And it's so frustrating when you think, well, I'm doing fine in this one area. Why is that not translating? Why? So it's about making the change that sticks. And it's actually a little about the thing. People want the thing. They want their lives in order. They want greater self-esteem, and they want to achieve things. But it's about the process of change. So it's an inside out and outside in. Like you got to make the change. So it's important to me, because I'm not a therapist anymore. It's important to me that we get results. And so we're being real clear about what our agenda is, what our objective is. So that's something I want to be clear on. But it's for the sake of what? Why am I doing this? What is this actually the thing that's important? And so getting to a place of clarity and authenticity about what it is you really want, and then making the changes inside as you're making the changes outside. So wide range of people, from, I would say, mid 20-year-old males to 60-year-old real estate brokers that are having great success. So it's a wide range. And it's people that want to figure out how to make change stick. It's so frustrating. Have you experienced that where you're like, what's the deal?
Yes, for sure. So I think that and I was hoping you're going to say like, and here's the solution, do this,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're all good, right?
I'll give you a little bit.
Yeah, I'll take what I can get.
Okay.
So with these, and I think we can all relate.
Yeah.
You have to stay focused on something, and we push through and maybe achieve some level of success. Um, so I guess the question would be for some of the clients that come to you, do you feel like it is people have a sense of conflict, like there's a problem that they keep coming up
Yeah.
against, or is it on paper I should be super happy and content and fulfilled right now, but I'm feeling a little bit empty and like what am I
Mhm.
doing? Because I think they're two different things. The sensation may be uncomfortable, but they are a little bit unique.
Yeah. That's a great question. I think there's always an itchy, scratchy part. Now, it may be life is good on paper, but I'm not happy. Or it could be my office is a mess and I haven't paid my taxes in 3 years and I'm successful, but this is crazy. My business is thriving, but I am insane. So
Hmm.
it's actually, I think what's at the heart of it is this itchy scratchiness. And sometimes people know it and sometimes people don't. And here's the thing is that sometimes the solution isn't directly related to the problem. And I think that's where HealthSpan, your area, and this idea of whole personhood, where that comes in, because one little tweak in this area can have profound effects in this other area. And so that really speaks to the person who's coming in and sort of like, yeah, my life's perfect, but I'm not happy. I don't have anything to fix. Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look and see what's under the hood, baby. Let's
Right.
see what's happening.
So you find yourself working with some pretty deep emotions, I would imagine. And so
Yeah.
it's both emotional and I suppose I want to say like tactical or skill set based. Like do
Yeah.
you find that some, albeit high achieving successful
Yeah.
people have, probably like super awesome tools in one thing, but maybe they're missing like if you had these other tools in your toolbox, this could do something. Like what do you find that is there a common thread that
Yeah.
one or two things that people are your clients may be missing?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, well, first of all, hammers don't do everything, right? Like
Everything's not a
forcefulness.
nail.
Right. I've tried. It doesn't work.
Right.
Um, so, but I think if we stripped it all away, yes, there are deep emotions, but working with your thoughts, I mean, that's not cool. No one's going to hire me to work with their thoughts. But
Mhm.
change their life, absolutely. Enjoy their life more. But it really is about working with what is happening in reality and what's happening cognitively, and what your engagement is with that. dissonance or alignment. And so I think a lot of it has to do with mindfulness, which is a word that I'm so happy it's everybody's talking about mindfulness now. But I'm talking about something really specific about working with your thoughts and how to use that to your benefit and actually the benefit of all, like everybody you're encountering in your life. So, and
Give
deep
me an
emotional
example of
stuff.
somebody who's like,
Yeah.
you have a case of
Well,
reframing.
yeah, sure. So, well, I'm going to go back to say somebody that's successful that is, uh, I don't know, has anxiety or, um, maybe clinical anxiety, and they're seeing somebody for that. And I did want to touch on what you said about deep emotional stuff. Coaching's not therapy. And so, uh, coaching can support therapy in a beautiful way, but it is definitely not a replacement. Um, but let's say you've got anxiety and maybe you've addressed it before, but it's still like a bugaboo in your life. Like, okay, so what do we do with that? There's a lot of cognitive distortion that goes into anxiety and thoughts. And so there's a couple things. One is we need to look at the process of thought and then the sort of response and action that comes afterwards. So just simple Google cognitive behavioral change that you're going to
Mm-hmm.
get this. It's an incredible process that actually works. So that's some of it. Identifying sort of the stimulus and then what's happening, and then introducing a new narrative, a new way to do that. So I'll come up with an example in just a sec.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of it. But another part is having some compassion towards yourself through that process because you're successful, right? Your business is fine. Your marriage is great. You've got plenty of savings. But every time you get anxious, you are just so frustrated with yourself. So that's where, I mean, just like do it with me. Put your hands on your chest for a second. Oh my gosh. Just a little bit of kindness,
Mm-hmm.
not in a woo woo way. I mean, we can go woo woo, but just kindness towards yourself, that you're a human being that's having this thing and you are not defined by this problem. It's just part of it. It's just like the weather just is, comes and it goes.
Funny,
So,
there are two points of that one you just said, it just is. I think I like reading about stoicism, and so I think that sometimes it just is, like things just are the way they are. You can hate a situation, you can love a situation, and the situation doesn't have feelings about what your feelings are. And so I think it just, it's raining out. You can love it, you can hate it. Well, it doesn't matter. It's raining out.
yeah,
It just
yeah.
is. Um, and also with kind of cutting ourselves some slack, it's definitely easy to see how people who are very successful in certain areas of life, that if that is it's human nature to pursue things that we're really good at,
Mhm.
and so you keep doing the things you're good at, you get this positive reinforcement, it's really good. Your I don't say your ego or
Oh yeah.
self-esteem starts to kind of build up, and then you pivot off of that line and realize, like, oh wow, well, wait a minute, I don't want to do this other thing because I kind of suck at this. So
And
and and yet some of those other things are may perhaps need some attention, and maybe can help. Maybe that's kind of like the noise in the background or the anxiety or stress in the background. But when I talk to some of my clients, I say have some humility and be a
mm,
little humble
yeah,
sometimes, to realize, like, yeah, you can
yeah,
be like kicked, but in this one thing,
yeah.
when you're in the office, you are like the rock star, you do all the
Mhm.
stuff, and you maybe get home and realize, like, I can't deal with my home life right now.
Yeah,
Like I'm just like, I got, like, it's an A plus here and like a
yeah,
D plus over here. Just be
yeah.
like,
Needs improvement.
yeah, exactly. Room for improvement, growth opportunities exist, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting point with that.
So yeah, I never thought of this, but the doing things you're not good at, right? And the humility that comes with that and the practice of that. I never thought about that, but maybe part of my coaching is to spare people from having to do ultra marathons because that's where I learned it.
Right.
Hey, look what I've learned. Let's try to
Right.
do this so that you don't have to go be in the woods for 16 hours and be real. So, but yeah, it is about, because being a human is just, it's real ordinary. Like you said, the weather is just weather, being weather,
Yeah.
not personal. And
Hmm.
so yeah, yeah, great. I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah, I think a little humor too, because sometimes the things
Oh,
that I think we all get stressed out about, And
Oh,
I can feel stress and anxious about stuff, and I'm a journaling kind of guy. I journal every
oh,
day, and so
cool.
sometimes I look back at stuff like, in the moment, I'm like, oh, this is kind of, I'm preoccupied with this, and look back, I'm like, how ridiculous is this? Like, was
Yeah.
so silly. Like, who cares? I kind of forget about
Right.
it. And so the more
Right.
I've done that, even when I'm in the heat of the moment, and I literally am feeling stressed or upset about something, and I'm like, this is a very real emotion, but there's
Yeah.
a little part of my brain I can say, yeah, but in a week, like, who cares? Like, I'm not even gonna remember, like, remember the
Yeah.
situation. So it does take, like, again, that cognitive behavioral approach, which is
Yeah.
like, I need to be objective about, like, try to
Yeah.
peel away a little bit of the emotion of this
Yeah.
very real, I'm feeling
Right.
stress.
Right.
It's a very physiological response. It's 100% to be accepted, but also acknowledge that I'm going to be okay. Like,
Yeah.
things are going to be okay. Right.
Having some, I don't know, kindness and grace towards myself. If I I mean, you said you reread stuff, and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to reread anything. Like make sure it's burnt before I go. But because it's so cringy, but I just, you know, I've tried. It's been a long journey to be kind of kind to myself, that's what it was like. And like, it is funny now, but at the time it was no joke.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's no joke when we encounter somebody in our day that's like that. So I want to share something. I used to, when was doing triathlons and coaching, I would volunteer to help with events. People would come pick up their race packets. Um, Now you're a cyclist, and cyclists have a little bit of a reputation for being kind of uptight. So just imagine you're nervous, you're
I can't fathom that.
excited.
No
Yeah,
understanding what you're saying right now.
you've been training. This is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And people would lose their minds if there was a glitch. And I remember being very frustrated with that and saying to somebody, almost in a provocative way, it wasn't very nice of me, sorry, but like, hey, this is not open heart surgery. Like, this is fun. You're not in the Olympics. You're not gonna be in the Olympics,
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, that is true. I mean, the win for things like, these kind of sports that we do, the win is showing up. Like, let's not forget that is the win.
Mm-hmm.
Even backtrack, saying I want to do it's the win, because that's scary. Um, but then to also have compassion for that guy who was being a jerk in line because he was all twisted up about his race bib or something, that in that moment, that was so true. There was nothing else happening but that. And so it was a good lesson for me to have a little more compassion for other people, but a good reminder of like, yeah, let's not take it all so seriously. Like, really, what is the harm here? Well, come on
That
now.
that it's
Hard.
I think we can all acknowledge that, but also realize that it is hard. That it
Yeah.
is an exercise in and of itself, and I guess that's maybe
Yeah.
the, being distracted, or, you're on the trail and you're off the trail, and you're on the horse and off the horse, and
Yeah.
to
Oh,
do things or to feel a certain way. It's like this constant internal conversation that we could have and say, this is what I feel and this is what I want to say, but no, that doesn't make
yeah.
any sense. So it's not really productive. Like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
Yes, but it would feel so good to, like,
Oh,
scream
yeah.
or throw something, but that's silly
Yeah.
because I'm not a child. Like, it's like this
Yeah.
constant, and maybe it's just me even, like, divulging too much, but after a while, it's like,
No.
this is just the way it is, man. Like, this is just like some sort of
Yeah.
primitive sensations versus, like, that's not really productive. That's silly.
Yeah. And well, what would happen if you just sort of relaxed into it and acknowledged it for being this sort of ridiculous movie that you're watching of like, so what an interesting process unfolding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is kind of a boring movie. I've seen it once or twice. Like, not the best, but that just to sort of relax into it. I think I always do this with my hand, like, oh, relax into it, like get into your seat about it and just like, that's interesting. I'm curious about that. And I don't mean that like in a, uh, have ambivalence or like apathy, but like it actually is kind of a curious process. And it's that sort of tight grip, which is the ability to have a tight grip. I think sometimes is the ability to sort of push and get stuff done in your life, which is
Yep.
a good thing. But we don't need that all the time. Like, let's put on loose, comfy fat pants. And it's just, that feels good. you
Yep.
know?
There's definitely a
So,
place to let go. And
yeah,
I think it's, again, to speak personally, like there are times when I'm super focused, and I think we can all really have decision fatigue. Sometimes if you're pushing
yeah.
through a
Oh, yeah.
project or whatever's going on in your life and you're like, oh, I got to make all these decisions, and it can be empowering and can be really positive, but also it's like, oh man, when, then it comes time like, what do you want for dinner? It's like, oh my God, like I'm going to say, I don't care. And I literally mean like right now, like I do
Yeah.
not care. Like I just can't even fathom that.
Yeah.
Um, but it's in the cycle work, it happens again and again and again. So I
Right.
think that's where maybe we have the opportunity to say, okay, this is part of the day or part of my particular day in this moment. This is what
Yes.
I'm feeling. So therefore, how do
Poof.
I frame this a little
Shake it
bit?
off.
Shake it off. Yeah. Let me put on my
Yeah.
fat pants.
Yeah. Fat pants. I'm telling you, they're good.
Yes. Yeah.
um, in that instance, it's so I'm exhausted. I have all these decisions that I've been making. Like literally you could put a bowl of dog food in front of me and I'd be fine. Like I cannot. And my partner, my husband, is saying, no, but what do you want? Let me help. Okay, that's the moment where mindfulness and sort of like a poof, get back in your seat. Here's a human being that's trying to be kind to me. Sure, I'm tired, but there's another person. It could be
Mm-hmm.
the checkout person at the grocery store, or it could be your loved one. And so, oh, okay, let's kind of put this in check in a kind and loving way, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and be nice to this other person because it's not all about me ever.
Right.
I'm just, well, tiny part of it. So,
Yeah. Even though
yeah,
you're living your 24/7
yeah,
as Anne, so
yeah,
you're in your story whether you like it or
yeah,
not. So it is
yeah.
about you. But
How do you like with your athletic endeavors? How do you manage coming up against yourself? Like what is a tool that you use or a lesson that you've learned that helps you when you're working with clients?
I think one thing that kind of keeps me going and keeps me focused on um, being, I feel like I'm like the exercise guy. Like I enjoy, for anybody who's listening right now who doesn't know my backstory, I was a competitive cyclist for a long time, and I work out pretty much every day doing one thing or another. At this point in my middle aged life, I'm once in a while we'll get into a mountain bike race or something, but I still train. And even as of this recording yesterday, I did a challenging indoor workout. It's like a cycling workout, and it was very familiar. I've done a million of them, and it was uncomfortable, and it was psychologically almost more challenging prepping for it than actually doing it. It's like the anticipatory, like, oh, it's going to be hard. Oh, it's going to, I'm going to choose to suffer at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Just like, so the,
Mm.
so the preparation for it, the sort of mental fortitude, and I think you mentioned the word discipline when we first started talking, but I think that, a few things. One, I identify myself in a certain way, and almost like from a third person, like, you know, Aaron Shaw is the guy that works out. Aaron Shaw is the guy that does intervals on occasion. Aaron Shaw says yes to this and
Cool.
or no to that. And so I'm living within myself, and I don't feel like I'm in a movie or anything, but in a sense, like, who is that guy? And I want,
Mm.
and, I think, I forget who said this, but when I'm 80 years old, I want to look back on Aaron today in his mid 50s and say, good call. So like that's who's judging me. Like I care less about
That's beautiful.
I care less about like the neighbor judging me or the person in the grocery store judging me or anybody else really. Like the
Yeah.
person I truly have to be the most accountable to is myself. And I don't want to let myself down in a sense. And so that
Oh.
in order to do that,
Mm.
I have to exercise discipline, which is a constant exercise. As you said, on the horse, off the horse. I mean, this is the very real challenge, no matter, the outcome, having a successful race or something or a successful business thing. It was like, to be clear, there was a lot of time off the horse that I was trying to like climb back on the horse. But the discipline is figuring out what you want now versus what you want most.
Mm.
And so making that decision,
Yeah.
because
That's
what I
good.
want right now is a handful of M&Ms. Do I want that now? Sure, that sounds great. Do I want that most? Well, no, because that is going to distract me from what I want most, which is to be 80 years old and healthy, for example.
Yeah.
And so there's these, the now versus most conversation is kind of what I kind of, as of lately, and have been like, oh, it's a really interesting way to kind of frame the infinite decisions that we make every single day, both professionally, managing stress, day-to-day stuff, self-care, exercise, all these health span pillars that we have to follow. It's like, oh yes, but there's this primitive desire for right now. I want this thing. I want to sleep in late. I want to go out drinking tonight. I want to have, you know, more pizza and dessert and whatever. Like that's what I want. Like literally, like do I want that? Yeah, of course I want that. And people have said
Yeah.
to me like, oh, it must be nice. You're always motivated and you always want to exercise. And I'm like, oh no. Let's clear this up. No, I do not want to go suffer.
Yeah.
But does it help me get what I want most? Yes. So I got to be objective about that. So I've taken
Mhm.
that tool from, back in the day when I used to race my bike all the time. I would say like those are tools that I probably went into it a little bit because the way I'm wired and the way I was brought up. So I kind of had this kind of the basics of those tools, and certainly racing for well over a decade is like I kind of sharpened those tools for a long time, and I was like, now it takes effort to kind of maintain those
Yeah.
tools. I would say.
I'm so glad you shared that because people probably want to hear that you are not robot wired to be a beacon of perfectionism or like, because it can look like that to those of us that are not maybe as disciplined or I use the word structured. They're not the same word,
Mm-hmm.
but anyway, so those of us that kind of are wired a little differently, it can look like it's just, I'll never be able to do what you do because you're just different than me. And it was cool as you were talking. I really thought about, okay, yeah, I actually relate to this. I think of it as, for this, my two things you said, now versus the later,
Most.
most. I think of it as for the sake of what? For the sake of what?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Um, so if my well-being is my priority, and I am really, that is embodied somatically in me, that is my priority, I'm going to pause before eating those M&Ms. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
wrong with it. We need to eat M&Ms. They're tasty.
Yeah,
But
that was, to be clear,
yeah,
that was not a diss
yeah,
on M&Ms.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah. Um,
I'm pro
yeah,
M&M.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
Nobody cancel Aaron. He
yeah,
loves
right.
it.
Well, accepting sponsorship right now. So if
Yeah,
anybody,
right.
yeah,
but but again, that's that sort of wide path of kindness towards yourself of like, sometimes you hit it and sometimes you don't, right? So that's the most, that's the for the sake of what. And then doing my future self a favor, that's my 80-year-old Erin that you just mentioned. So I know on your show, I'm not going to blow this early, but I know on your show at the end, you ask people like, or you talk about what's the one thing you can do. And I've been thinking about, I bet he's going to ask me that.
good idea.
And one of the things I thought of saying, but I'm not going to say because I'm going to say it now, is to think about your future self. So when I'm tired and the dishes are still in the sink, I'm going to do future Anne, the morning Anne, a favor by getting him taken care of. Or I'm going to go on a walk first thing in the morning because I want to do 3 p.m. Anne a
Mm-hmm.
favor because she's pretty crusty and burnt out by the time 3 or 4. So it's the same model. I like that the idea of pushing it out even further to, okay, I'm 52, so let's think about 55, 58. You know, um, what a good thing to take that long range, whether it's tomorrow or 3 hours from now, you, or 20 years from now, 30 years from now, you. It's like
Yeah.
a beautiful thing from like being truly in the moment to sort of forward thinking and making the best decisions in this moment for the kind of moments you want to have later on.
Yeah, that's a good way to kind of sort of frame this next question, which is when you have a client come to you, and of course they have, I suspect, some acute right now. This is what's on my mind. This is why I'm seeking you out today, or I've been looking, recently. How do you help people, appreciate the 3 p.m. Anne, and the 60-year-old Anne, and recognize that we all know that, we're all creatures of like, I want that immediate, it's a very real
Yeah.
physiological response to like grabbing the M&Ms right now. And like, it is awesome
Yeah.
for at least a few minutes.
Yeah.
How do you help people say, let's make a decision around the M&Ms, which maybe sometimes, yes, that's fine, but also acknowledge that, how do you keep the eye on the 30,000 foot view? How do you help people
Yeah.
do that?
Well, I think we start with the 10-foot view and then the 20-foot view and then the third. So definitely scaling, and starting out with literally the lunchtime Anne. Lunchtime Anne needs breakfast,
Right.
So part of it is scaling. And then, the more comfortable you are with making decisions in this moment for future better moments, the easier it will be to imagine. Because many of the people I work with come in and the last thing they're thinking about is 20 years from now. Oh my God, they can't manage today. They're not thinking about that. So part of it is learning to be truly in this moment that we have, because then you learn that, oh, this is all we've got actually.
Mhm.
Oof, that's kind of heavy. Like we could pause and
Yeah.
let our listeners take that in. All we
Yes.
have is right now. That's part of it. Part of it is having some compassion towards yourself, that like you are going to bumble your way there if you are so lucky to get that 10,000 foot, or get to 80,
Mhm.
that in itself is a gift. So, that's where the sort of gratitude and humility comes in, and working with what we've got. Okay. So client is in their 60s. They've had a lifetime of sort of reckless eating and reckless living, and they want to make changes. Okay. Well, this is what we've got to work with today. You are not a virgin clean vessel that's only had like grass fed meat and
Right.
veg, organic veg. Like, okay, so that's cool. So part of it is managing the expectations we place on ourselves and getting really aware of what matters, that the making a smidge of an improvement is actually very satisfying. Like having, I talk about these grains of rice. My clients don't love it because they would like to have, 30 pound, they'd like a tanker full of rice,
Right.
but it is a grain of rice that we're just moving over each time. And when you feel them stack up, now granted, rice is small, so it's going to be like you've got 10 or 15 of these little, oh my gosh, look, I made a change there. I built up some practice, and it shifts your experience in the world. It's quite profound. It's
Mhm.
like people, they want to quit smoking, they want to lose weight, they want to get sober, whatever the thing is, they want to start doing something new. They're like, okay, I did it for 2 days and I failed. No, 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 no. Each one is like, oh, dude, look, little grain of rice. It's still happening. And it's part of the process. Some of us, I've seen this in recovery. Some people decide they want to stop drinking and they just get it. Boom. Other people, they start, they stop, they start, they stop. And each one of those matters because we're learning something. So,
Mhm.
we're just, uh, my clients are just like gathering little, grains at a time. Did I answer your question, or did I just go like on a rice tangent?
No, well, this is all great. I mean, it leads into certainly thinking about habit formation, which is one of
Oh, yeah.
a huge thing that's, I work with my clients, and I think that we're all,
Mhm.
for better or worse, we have our habits and our routines, and the sense of sort of being stuck in a rut is, I think, in part, at least, that
Mhm.
our environment, our belief system, our routines have established, you do this on this day at this time, and
Mm.
both physically doing an activity, but also thinking a certain way. It's like, oh, I'm in this certain situation, so I sort of habitually get a little anxious, or habitually
Mhm.
I get happy, when I see certain people, or whatever it is. So when you're working with your clients and people want to make a life change, like, hey, help me change these things. And I imagine, once you kind of get a sense of like, here's my routine, here's what I do, here's my thought process, how do you help people, not just change, which I feel like we've talked about a little bit already,
Yeah.
but it's like, how does that, collecting those grains of rice happen in a month from now and 6 months from, like, how do you help people sustain? Because
Yeah.
we all know, and certainly for many of the people that I work with, both in formal coaching and just sort of, social settings, it's, oh man, January, I am going to like change everything and it's going to be amazing. And, and, and I'm going to eat clean and exercise and hydrate and stop drinking and do all these millions of things. And it's like kind of like a full court press for a couple of weeks, and
Yeah.
then the habits stop. And
Mhm.
so I think that we all, and I think to me, my perception, I'm curious if you have a different perspective on this, but the sense of coaching is sustainability, an
Yeah.
exercise in sustainability, right? It's like, so I don't provide people with this groundbreaking news, which, if, listeners, if you want to write this down, but exercise is good for you. You should exercise regularly. You should probably eat clean to like skip the fast food. Okay. So I know this is gonna blow up. This episode is gonna be amazing, but that's the secret.
Yeah.
We all know. How do we help people sustain that? How do you do that?
Well, that is what it's all about, is making change that sticks, right? And that it's not, because I'll share something personal and then I'll get to how it plays out in life and with clients. I've always wanted to be somebody that wakes up at 5 o'clock and does yoga and maybe has a dancer's body. Why not? Like, that's not me. I don't have that, never had it. I could if it was that important, but it's actually not for me. Yoga would help. But so there's a couple, one is having a reckoning. I have this sort of secret desire, wish to be something that I am not at this moment, and to really just like clear the space and let's look at that. Do you want that? Because I bet if you do, we can make that happen. Like, we can get you there. But it turns out I don't really want to be a 5 a.m. yoga person. I'd rather be a 5 a.m. run person or something, something else. So with clients, we look at, okay, what is it that you really want? Sometimes you come in and you think you know what you want, and sometimes you're right, but sometimes you're not right. And we lift the hood and it's like, oh, this is what I want. So that's part of it. And, somebody comes in at the beginning of the year, they want to lose weight, but what they really want is some happiness, some ease, and some space in their life. Okay. So inside out, outside in. So it's like, a mandala, right? Even if you don't know exactly what one is, just imagine a circle with different entry points, right? So we can pick any entry point to get in there and start doing stuff. And so maybe what it is learning, I do this with all my clients, is having greater somatic awareness. So Erin, in this moment, what are you experiencing? You don't have to answer unless you want to, but like, what are you experiencing in your body right now? A lot of us walk around and we're just like a head on a stick, right? We're just nothing happening. So I help people, okay, let's get in there. What is happening here with your bum on the seat, your feet on the floor? Like, so somatic awareness, because this is where we are. Okay. And okay, notice your thoughts. Okay, what's happening here? So some of it is bringing awareness to mind and body in a very ordinary way, but it's quite profound. And then it's this sort of chipping away that's actually how you make change stick. I always say, like, this isn't there's a new sheriff in town approach, like from cartoons where there's a
Everything
new
changes.
sheriff. Poo poo. Yeah. No. We are, we're grain of sand, grain of rice in it. That it's just, that is actually how you do it. And so sometimes the thing you're stacking isn't, I want to change the way that I eat. Yeah, I want to do that. But today, all I did was I won the water drinking Olympics. I did great. Yahoo! So everything matters. So again, so many different entry points. It all matters. And sometimes as simple as doing a little inventory at the end of the day of the things that, you could do plus minus, kind of keep it simple. And sometimes, like, maybe you're having a rough time and just getting in the shower that day was a lot. And other people do that all the time, right? That's normal. But for you, for that day, like, let's capture that win because it matters. And then sometimes you have fancier days where you do things like that 2 p.m. workout you just talked about. I'm dying to know what you actually did because it sounds terrible. Like, it sounds, but sometimes you do fancy things, but to capture those ordinary things and those ordinary efforts, those matter and they really do stack up. And that's how you make the behavior or mindset change. So I would say it's a lot of mindset.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's a combination of mindset uh, and looking through some of your stuff on your website, and I'll share all of your contact information. But you mentioned like groups, like having
Mhm.
almost like accountability partners or other people that are. And it'll turn out that most people are actually trying to change, whether they
Yeah.
whether they are
Yes.
saying it out loud, but we're all like trying to like, oh
Yeah.
God, I should do this or I should do
Yeah.
that or whatnot. So
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of habits. So my favorite book is probably Atomic Habits,
Mhm.
and making these little tiny changes and acknowledging that all of these great things, and certainly people that if you look up to people that are inspiring to you, they probably do small things consistently to the point that it seems like it'd be so boring and tedious,
Hmm.
yet it gets them amazing results because they
Yeah.
are doing the one grain of rice
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
time. Good day, bad day, slept well, didn't sleep well. It's raining out, it's sunny out. It's like, it doesn't matter, man. I'm just going to just keep doing that one thing. And if that one thing is like, whether that's doing a check in, whether that's doing my, 30 minutes, run or yoga in the morning and just doing it, or making my smoothie or saying
Hmm.
no to whatever, it's like boring, tedious repetition. Results are massive.
Yeah.
Results are huge. And I think
Yeah.
it's a hard selling point sometimes,
Mhm.
where what we all as human beings, like, I want the quick fix. Like, just what's the riddle? Just give me the equation so I
Yeah.
can be
I mean, the
happy,
secret.
fit, healthy, motivated, balanced across all things, and sleep well. Like, give me all,
Mhm.
like, so what is that? Is that come in a pill form, or do I got to
Yeah.
inject it? Like, how does this work, right? And I think that habits are in that long term play, like that's the challenge.
Yeah. And the habits are tedious, but if you are present, there's Thich Nhat Hanh. I don't know if you've heard of him,
Oh
but
yeah.
Thich Nhat Hanh. Okay, that was probably my first introduction to Buddhism a long time ago. And one of his books, he talked about mindfulness, doing the dishes, and paying attention to where I am and what I'm doing. It's not like, doesn't bring sparkle magic to tedious chores and tedious habits, but being present makes a difference while you're doing it, because there's not this dissonance of your head being like, this sucks. Oh, I hate this. And it's like, hate it, love it. Like you said, it's cool, whatever. But that's just a thought. We're doing the thing. Let's
Mhm.
do the thing. So it's like a redirect, just like training a puppy. I've never had a puppy. My dogs have all come to me older. But I think when you train a puppy, you're just consistent.
Yeah.
And sometimes you nail it, sometimes you don't. So I think it's kind of like, maybe we're all puppies. So I think that's a big part of it, is just being present with what you're doing, and that your thoughts are, in some ways, they don't matter at all. And in other ways, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's a stumper. Yeah.
Profound, yes, and true. In fact, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because your
Yeah.
perception is everything, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we've all had the same exact situation come,
Yeah.
essentially the same situation pop up. And some days it's stress, or some days it's like I don't care. Some days like it means nothing. And I think if we can, reflect on that and realize that it's the same situation, and so really like
Yeah.
your our emotions that are attached to it is like that's all coming from me. Like the same, I'm going grocery shopping. Oh, I hate this. It drives me nuts. Or like, oh, it's just kind of nice to get out of the house. Or like,
Yeah.
oh, this is cool. I really want to make this, dish tonight. It's like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, I'm doing the same thing. Like, why am I pissed off
Yeah.
one time and I'm
Yeah.
fine and kind of okay about it the next time? It's like, oh, maybe it is. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's not the grocery store. It turns out.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let's write a new story. Like, why
yeah,
not? If it's all make believe, anyways, let's pick a different story.
yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, with your clients, because any kind of coaching, right, is about accountability,
Mhm.
any kind, doesn't matter what. How do you see accountability really, like, having an accountability partner? How do you see that transform people's lives? Besides getting the thing that they want, what are there other things that you see that people get from learning about accountability through coaching?
Yes, I think that a couple of things with accountability. One, people have to be ready for it, engaging. There's being accountable. having a coach, having an accountability partner, something like that, it doesn't mean that your partner, if you will, can do things for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't exercise for my clients. I can't take my interval session that I did the other day and like give physiological credit to my coaching clients. My rates would go way up if I could do that. I can
That'd
tell
be
you.
awesome.
That would be great. Yeah, I'll see if I can find an app for that. But I think that for me, accountability is helping people reach their potential. And
Right.
sometimes, if not all the time, people can achieve so much more than what they, even though like their wildest dreams on like health and fitness and balance and health span and emotional well-being. And I think that having, again, this is like a process of like, let's define goals. I mean, if you're
Right.
middle-aged people like we are and say, I want to be an Olympian, it's like, well, let's kind of be realistic about some goals, but let's be ambitious. Like, what do
Yeah.
you, could we all be stronger, have, a better metabolic system and physiologically all these other, great benefits? Sure. Yeah, we all could. I mean, it's almost like there is no end game, or, you can't really like achieve perfection. There's no such thing. But um, so accountability comes in to help people achieve, first of all, maybe help people define what are we shooting for here, like, and even in as clearer terms as possible. And I love, um, and you can appreciate this from an artistic perspective, which I would love to dig into a little bit. Is that, I always say, paint a vibrant, colorful picture in your mind on what success looks like. Not like, I want to lose 10 pounds.
Mm.
It's like, okay, objective, like that's either like did it or not. But what does that truly look like? Like, define the day when you wake up
Right.
and say, holy shit, I did the thing that I talked about a year ago. Like, like, is the sun up? What are you wearing? What are you doing? What does it feel like? Who are you engaging with? What's your mood? What are you eating? And the more I find, the more that people can kind of detail that, like really get a visual. And it's tough for a lot. It's tough, like, I just want to be healthy. Yeah, we all do. What does that mean to you? Like, I don't, but then once you can help people clearly define that and say like, yeah, this is ambitious but reasonable, doable within this time frame. I think that's where our coaching hats come in. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
piece this out. Let me make this in bite-sized pieces, and then we can work on being accountable for this piece,
Mm-hmm.
and then this piece, and then, and then the next grain of rice, and the next grain. And I think that when my clients start to recognize that it's easier to think about, that one grain of rice is success. It's not the perfect day that I'm hoping for, in a year from now when my weight, my emotions, my
Yeah. True.
sleep, all these things are dialed in. It's like, no, like we've piecemealed this out. And so accountability is like, did you get your grain of rice today? Did you do
Yeah.
that one little thing, which we're going to come to? But like, that is
Yeah.
that's the value of accountability, I think. But it takes, I can remind people, and this is human nature. We don't bat 1,000. People try. People, I've had clients that come in. This is what I want. Break it all down. A few months, they kind of just like fade away, and like, just not ready yet. Maybe it's like sobriety. Like, some people
Yeah.
are like, yep, here it is, and other people's like exploring it, maybe more than like
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
So that's my
I
thought
think,
on
yeah, I
accountability.
think I think it all matters. Like the people, we've all been there where we're like, now we're going to do this thing. And then you're the one that fades away, whatever the
Mhm.
thing. And that still matters. That is still some imprint of change.
Yeah.
It didn't, you didn't sustain it, which is fine. Nope, you're not going to get points taken off, but it's an imprint, and every imprint matters. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about the different kinds of accountability, and some people want you to do it for them, and we can't do that. Can't do it for anybody. But I think this is helpful for people to know. Knowing what kind of accountability is helpful. Some people like the sort of kick in the pants approach, and some people really need more. of a uh, gentle kind of coaxing approach. And it doesn't work for everybody. And I don't work for everybody. Like you have to find, it's first of all, it's not like magic solution potion to find change, to make change, but you do have to have the right approach that's going to work for you, the right fit. I mean, there's a seat for everybody. So making sure that you find the right type of help is helpful, because accountability across the board helps, but you got to find the right way for you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why there are so many trainers and coaches and humans, and there's no one size fits all. And so the finesse
Sure.
is certainly trying to find the right, your person or your group or your
Yeah.
system for now, because even that
Yeah. For now.
can change and will change, and maybe it should change,
Mhm.
as you evolve. Well, this is fascinating. I feel like this could be a 4-hour podcast, and maybe we'll do this
Put
again.
everybody to
And
bed 4 hours.
hey,
We'll
it's
work on
all
sleep.
about,
We'll be one of those sleep podcasts
yeah, right.
where we talk people to sleep.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll give this to the Calm app and see if they'll put this in bedtime stories. uh, but as you alluded to earlier on, one thing that's very important to me with this podcast and my coaching message is HealthSpan. So in HealthSpan, we talk about what I think are like the 5 main pillars of HealthSpan, which are exercise, nutrition, sleep, emotional well-being, and preventative care. And if these 5 pillars were given attention with, you know, yeah, attention and being deliberate about addressing those for our personal health, the result would be a life well lived, probably extending your longevity and certainly extending your health span, which is that time within our lifespan that we are healthy and active and vibrant. So, with that in mind, in your experience, what is one thing that you would share with our listeners that you think could help them improve their health span? What's one thing they can do today? Something, what is that one grain of rice that you feel like is actionable?
Mm. Well, I think it's kind of hits on the last two pillars, emotional well-being, and so is
Preventative care.
preventative care. Okay, so I'm going to preface this. Preventative care research has shown that relationships can help us live longer, connections to others. It makes a difference. Physical touch makes a difference. So I'm hitting those last two. Um, Here's my one little tip of the day, which is it's this term. It's called Maitri. It's a Sanskrit word, and it means kindness towards oneself and others. And so my one tip of the day is to make somebody else's day. So not a grand gesture. You don't have to buy the guy at the checkout line a car. That's a cool thing to do, but just make somebody's day. Maybe you remember once that somebody had said something about their dog, and so ask them about their dog or whatever the thing is, but make somebody's day and bring some kindness towards the world. It will make a difference. So it's, yeah, make somebody's day.
Pay it forward. That's great. I know there's research that shows that doing something like that, even though we think of it as like giving to somebody else, actually the person who's giving
Yes.
has a at least if not a more positive response to doing something nice for somebody else, even if it's anonymous. So
Yes.
there's it is sort of like it's interesting how like that these the in a sense like the trick to happiness is actually helping what you may look like I want to help you be happier. I want you to
Yeah.
be happier. And what's
Yeah.
really happening is like I'm actually selfish because I'm making myself happier just trying to make you happier for
Yeah.
giving. So it's like super win-win.
Yeah. I don't tell my friends this, but chances are if they're getting a phone call from me saying, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm trying to get out of myself just to say hello. Like just get out of, and it doesn't have to be big.
No.
Goodness gracious, it could be one time somebody gave me a cup of ice at a fast food restaurant and just let me have the ice, and I started crying because it was like, "Thank you for not being a jerk."
Yes.
Like
Yeah. I mean
it could be
sometimes
tiny.
the depending
It was
on
good ice.
yeah when it sometimes it's depending on the what's going on in the world, these small things are very
Yeah.
impactful. So don't underestimate that. Well, Anne Levine of Annex Life Coaching, I am super stoked with our conversation. I will have many more conversations like this because it's
Love it.
super selfish for me because I love these, love what you have to say. And these conversations are interesting. Appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you, Erin. It's a delight. I think you're fabulous. And yeah, love talking to you. It's really fun.
We'll
Thanks.
talk again. All right. Take care.